Welcome to another episode of Artsy AF Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Norris, and thank you for being here. This week, my guest is Manuel Zamudio. He goes by raid_33 on Instagram, and he is creating intensely detailed, hyperthermic, psychedelic portraiture of the apocalypse. Go check him out right this instant. You're going to love it. In this episode, Manuel breaks down his story about how a powerful loss in his life sparked his creativity and his purpose to be an artist. Very inspiring stuff there. We also get into his process a little bit, some of his influences artistically and outside of painting. Just an all-around great conversation. It was great meeting you, Manuel, and hopefully our paths will cross in real life someday. And this week we have a new Patreon subscriber, artist, former guest, one of my favorite people, Alicia Post. You can catch her at Alicia Post Art on Instagram. She's a painter, a portrait artist, highly skilled in rendering accurate takes of humans and animals, and a mother of two. So shouts to you, Alicia, and thank you. And if you, dear listener, would like to support this podcast, head on over to patreon.com/RTAF podcast, where you will find out how to do that. I'd like to also mention that I am dropping prints on Tuesday. That'll be tomorrow after this episode is released, of my most recent painting called Central Drift. It's the black and white grayscale painting of a giant anatomically correct heart with some color aberration, channel separation effects, and these prints are also holographic on top of that. Limited edition of 25, so get your hands on them. AndrewNorrisArts.com. You can find it on that landing page there. And yeah, let's keep this one short and sweet. Let's jump right into Manuel Zamudio.
Sure, yeah.
You know, first couple minutes off here. But yeah.
I was listening to your podcast while I was running yesterday. You have a great voice.
Really? So yeah, it's so weird, man. Like, I don't think that I do. I think it's, I don't know what I don't like about it, but like.
Well, that's usually how it is, right? That's
Yeah. I'm also, you know, I'm a big like consumer of podcasts too. And so I think a lot of the people who take it, you know, a few levels more serious than I do, went to like broadcasting school or like took some classes. But I mean, that's it's definitely something I'm like open to. But yeah. So Manuel Zamudio, welcome.
Yes.
That's how you say it?
Me.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
That was pretty good, actually.
Sweet. Yeah, I like to practice saying people's names that I might not be able to pronounce beforehand.
Yeah. People still can't say it even in my hometown, so it's all good.
Really? Because to me, it looks like it rhymes with studio with a, you know, that's like easy as fuck, you know?
Yeah.
That just seems really...
That's hilarious.
You could just... Yeah, do you tell people that?
No, but I'm going to start doing that now.
Hell yeah. Sweet. Well, sweet, man. Very nice to meet you, and shouts Jack Schur for introducing us. And
great guy, great artist.
Yeah, appreciate you taking the time today.
Of course, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to just start off by saying, huge fan of your work. I only found out about it, I think it was not yesterday, but Tuesday when I hit you up. Yeah. And man, blows me away.
Thank you.
I'm always amazed by portrait painters who can hone this level of detail to where you can see like pores of the skin and just interesting expressions on people's faces, and just love what you do, man. I'm pretty stoked.
Thank you.
Pretty stoked to have you on, and I'm sure all the listeners will love your work as well. So usually what I do is, you know, we'll start off kind of like with your backstory, and you can go as far back as you'd like, you know, back into childhood if you want. But I guess the question that I'll pose first is, when did you start painting, and is there a why behind that?
Yeah, so it does go back. I'm like, like a lot of artists and a lot of people that you know that make art, it does go back. So I'm gonna go way back, okay?
Take us
Because
way
it
back.
does go further back.
Yeah.
So my family and I immigrated to the United States from Mexico City, right? I was born in 1988, so this must have been like in the early 90s. I was about 4 or 5,
Mm-hmm.
and we landed in Texas because it was the closest, coming up from Mexico, and so we had to go through all that, and families, even though they come to the States and they're in the States for a while, they take a while to adapt. Especially my mom and dad, right?
Sure.
So my dad's hobby was painting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he liked to draw and paint, and it was like a hobby, but it was a little bit higher up than a hobby because he took it fairly seriously.
Yeah.
And he was decent at it, and he did it all the time. Now, the funny thing about that is that when he painted, he wouldn't let me watch. So I would go to school. Since he would work in the evenings, I would go to school, and by the time I come back from elementary school, he'd have like a new little painting or drawing done, and I totally thought it was magic. I was like, this is magic.
Right.
What the hell, And sometimes I would get upset because I'm like, how do you do this? Because I want to do it, and I don't know. And he was the type of guy that like, that was his like relaxation time. So he didn't want a kid to like watch over him.
Sure.
So he did that for a while, and I just was always enamored with art, and he would always listen to jazz music and different music like that. So that's like another thing that mixes, it's all one thing.
Right.
And so unfortunately, around age 10, he passed away, super quickly from cancer.
Yeah.
So it was he was a very healthy dude. So it was like literally like 6 months, gone.
Whew.
And I think a couple of months after that, I had already been drawing, of course, but I think a couple of months after that, I was drawing this big Vegeta versus Goku drawing, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, and it was pretty late at night, it was probably like 10. And I remember having this like huge confirmation, but also like a feeling, like a body high in that moment as a kid, and being like, I'm going to be an artist. Like, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And I remember I got up and I went upstairs we lived in an apartment complex. I went to my friend's upstairs and I knocked. I'm like, I'm going to be an artist, dude. And he's just like, okay. And I was telling my mom, like, I'm going to be an artist. So essentially, since that age of 10, since I had already been drawing, I kind of was just in my head, even as a teenager, in my head, like in the back of my head, I'm going to be an artist. This is who I am. It's not what I do. It's like who I am. Right?
Yeah.
And ever since then, I started drawing, and it just stayed with me. It was just one of those things that always stayed with me.
Yeah. Wow. That's a powerful story.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, I guess it's life, right?
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like maybe nothing you had control over in terms of like that feeling that arose out of it. But what you did with it, you look at your work, it looks like you've been painting since you were 10, or like making art since you were that age. And so do you think that like having that as an identity at that young age, really, did it push you? Did it fuel you?
Yeah, I felt like I guess since then, I always felt like I had a purpose.
Yeah.
And my father was always a big guy. Like, anybody that did something great with his life, he admired, anybody from like King Griffey Jr., Sr. and Jr. and, Miles Davis, Coltrane, anybody who he thought was great, Michael Jordan, he would always like tell me like, look at what he did with his life, or look at what she did with her life. Like, look at that. So I guess that kind of stuck within me. Mm-hmm. And I've always felt like I had a purpose, and that's why I always thought like, or believed like, art is what I do, and I'm going to take it as far as I can.
Yeah.
So yeah, it always drove me,
Nice.
Yeah.
So this next question I kind of plan to ask a little bit later in the interview, but since you already brought up the passing of your father at such a young mm-hmm. age, and I both my parents are still alive, so I have no frame of reference for that at all. But do you think that like artists to be a good artist, do you think you need to maybe not suffer, but be in touch with pain in some sort of way?
I think to be able to be good at anything, you'd have to be in touch with some sort of pain.
Yeah.
You know, at what level, I don't know, but it's the hero's journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't learn that till way later in my life, but
Right.
that's a hero's journey because it teaches you, in a sense, about reality, right? Because we're kind of very, even in our everyday life, we're very, we don't think about things so deeply, you know? I think we're made that way.
Right.
But as soon as I think that if you're able to understand how difficult life is, how much suffering there is even as an individual,
right,
I think it fuels you to do what you need to do, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. One thing I've been doing recently is kind of like I'll do prep questions the day or 2 days before, and if one comes up that I could also answer, I try and answer it myself too, just to have something else to talk about, you know? But the way I see it is kind of like you don't have, like, there's a difference between like using your suffering and just suffering and destroying yourself and being hard on yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like, because we all know the sort of like archetype of the self-destructive creative genius or whatever, you know?
Correct. The famous destructive. Yeah.
So many examples of that. And I feel like really, like, if art is out here helping you or helping the world in any way, it can sort of teach you to integrate that pain and suffering and just maybe transmute it or something like that. Something
even if it's unconsciously, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. I think that's one thing that, I mean, this could, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like society, and I think not just now, I think always loves that Jim Morrison shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's he was 27 when he died, yo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, that doesn't really work out, you know?
No.
Like that. So it's like, I learned that very young because I was so into Jim Morrison when I was a kid. And then I was like, I don't want that. That's not what I want.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's cool that you saw that and you were like, that's not what I'm going to do. Because I feel like a lot of people see that and they're like, oh, cool. It's like alluring, you know, it's like some sort of allure.
At first I was like, this is so cool. And then I was like, yeah, but I don't want to do it exactly like that. I don't want to die. No hard drugs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Well, okay, let's pivot to something a little bit more, you know, run of the mill, I guess. So, by the way, I wrote, I had a note, like Dragon Ball Z, right?
Yeah.
That's the shit that I was drawing when I was like in 8th grade and stuff.
Hell,
you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah. If you weren't, I don't know what you were doing, you know?
Right. It's totally like the, you know, like, just to come back to what you said about the hero's journey, it's that in a nutshell with, like, you know, 3 episodes of Goku like charging up the spirit bomb.
Hell yeah.
So were you influenced by other comics or other kind of cartoons at that point?
Yeah, the very big one, and it's funny because I was just watching a thing on Spawn. So Todd McFarlane and Spawn, because I was, you know, back then, my first superhero ever was Batman, Spider-Man, you know, and then around the time my father's passing, I found Spawn.
Ooh.
And the detail is what I think influenced me to work the way I work now. Far back, because I used to get every issue that would come out and replicate the cover, and I would try to replicate each cover like meticulously. And I think that stuck with me. You know what I mean? Somehow that stuck with me. Try to detail everything as much as possible.
Yeah. So when you're like, you're going through like the school system in the US, did you feel like a weird kid, or was there like a supportive kind of artsy crew that you fell into, like in high school?
No, absolutely not. I didn't feel weird. I mean, I was a nerd, right? Because I was into all the nerdy shit. But I I didn't really feel weird until I think in high school is when I really started meeting other people that liked art, weren't artists themselves or made art, but they were into, like, I found Alex Stray through people in high school, you know,
Nice.
and that was like absolutely mind blowing for me. I was like, what the hell is this? But as far as the school systems, no, I've had terrible experiences throughout junior high and high school with art school or school art teachers. Sorry.
Yeah. I feel like art teachers at that level are kind of bitter artists who gave up on their like dream in some way, you know, and so they're unconsciously or maybe even consciously taking it out on the students there.
100%.
You know. So did you go to like art school in college, or did you go to college?
No, I mean,
Awesome.
I had I had a pretty rough upbringing in the sense of like, you know, my mother was like the one raising me, but she was also working more than a full-time job, you know? So I was just like, I mean, we didn't have a vehicle. We lived in an apartment, you know what I mean? And totally. I was just kind of like, there's no future for me in schooling. I'm like, I can't even afford a car to go to school. You know, and I'm not saying that was right, but that was just kind of what was in my mind at that point. So I was like, I'm just going to try to educate myself as much as I can on my own. Because one, you know, I felt like a lot of the stuff that the school was teaching me was just a waste of time. Like I'm sure all of us did at that age, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I was like, I'm going to try to educate myself as much as I can. So, you know, I would borrow books and I would steal books from Barnes and Nobles and stuff like that, philosophy books, art books, Terrence McKenna books, you know what I mean?
Nice.
And I kind of like taught myself a lot of different little nuggets of good things through that. But no, I didn't go to school just because like, I just felt like I have no future in that. Like, I was like, and I don't think art is there. I was just like, I'm just going to try to figure things out on my own. Nice. So I've just been like that my whole life, kind of just figuring things out on my own.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's really inspiring. I was kind of forced to go to college and take out loans before I knew what the hell that even was going to do to my life. You can hear the bitterness in my voice.
Really quick, my wife has her arts degree and she feels the same way.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah. And I didn't even go for art, you know, and that's what I do now, like full time. I didn't know what I was going for because I was just they were like, you need to go to college. I was like, okay. Yeah. And then I got there and was just like, I guess psychology is interesting, and I got that. And then,
which it is, really is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm of two minds about it. It's like on one hand, it was cool to have the college experience, I guess, and sort of like round out myself socially and all that. But at the same,
I wish I would have had that.
Yeah. At the same time, I feel like I didn't have a purpose until I was, 26, when I actually started taking paint to a canvas, like off of the like sketch pad paper and onto a canvas. And
which is great to have a purpose, right?
It's so important.
It's important, yeah.
So you finish high school and you're...
No, didn't finish, dropped out of high school.
Okay. Awesome.
Another mistake.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm over here assuming all this shit about school for you, and
No, you're good.
I didn't know how to say it, but like the high school chapter came to a close.
Yeah.
And so what are you doing after that? Are you still painting? Because I feel like those years are so formative for a lot of people.
That's when I started painting, actually.
Okay.
Right at what would have been senior year. I dropped out right before I finished, because I was listening to a lot of Rage Against the Machine and stuff, and fuck everything. And I was just like, nah, fuck this. And reading Nietzsche and listening to Rage Against the Machine at that age, it's like, it's too much, right?
Yeah.
So I dropped out right when I shouldn't have dropped out. And then I was like, I'm gonna paint. And I had no idea how to paint. Mind you, my pops didn't teach me how to paint.
Right.
He just painted, right?
Right.
So I busted out his old easel and I looked at his dried up oil paints and I was like, all right, well, let's see what I can do. I went to Michael's and bought like canvas and I just kind of messed around with that stuff. And I started realizing that I was going to need more money because, you know, at that age, fresh out of high school, I had no money.
Right.
And I was like, I have to figure this out. This is a funny story, which is right in that same time period. Mm-hmm. So I used to have a homie of mine who didn't go to school. He was older, but he lived in my friend's neighborhood. And he sold weed, right? He sold a dro. And this is like maybe like 2004, maybe 2000 or 2006, maybe around there.
Okay.
And his name was Lucky, the sweetest drug dealer ever. Just a sweetheart.
Nice.
And he was like a gangster dude, super sweet. And, you know, he would always invite me inside and I'd get to meet his family and hang out. And then I remember he was like, so what do you want to do with your life now that you got out of school? And I'm like, well, I want to be an artist. You know, that's what I want to do. And I was like, I just don't have any money. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out. And he's like, well, I believe in you, dude. I believe in you. And like, he goes inside, he comes back outside and he gives me $350. And he goes, nice. I believe in you so much. He was like, go buy your stuff. Right. So obviously I was ecstatic and I thanked him. And, you know, I made him a painting later to thank him, but I went and bought other material. And after that, I just literally tried to figure out, I think for like painting with oils, it took about I don't think I got good at painting till like 4 years ago, maybe. You know what I mean? It took that long for me to figure out what the hell to do with paint. Yeah. But that's when I started and I just didn't stop throughout that time period.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely know what you mean. Like I look back at my work from, 7-8 years ago and I'm like, I'm just like, nah.
Cringe.
Yeah. I think this is a topic that comes up like a fair bit on this podcast. Yeah. Like if you don't look back in the past at some point and like look at your work and kind of, you can appreciate the time you spent making it, but you can't hold it in high regard like you did at the time you were making it,
No. I've learned that you shouldn't hold anything in high regard. Yeah. Like I'll look back at paintings from 2 paintings ago and I'm like, nope. I have them hanging around my living room so I could look at them. Mm-hmm. So I look at them every day when I pass by and I'm like, nope. And it's like notes and notes and notes. So like my thing is always like, don't hold anything at a high regard because eventually you're like that high is so little feeling the high of like, I did it. So like, it's better not to feel like that at all. And just, it's work.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, you could actually just look at every painting as like a step up a giant mountain that never 100%. Ends,
Yeah. It never ends. Yeah. I told a friend of mine who's also a painter a couple of days ago, she was asking me for advice and I told her like, just like I said now, don't look at it as a painting as a single achievement. Mm-hmm. And when you look at a painting that you do like that you did, think of what you're going to do in 10 paintings from now. Right. So always look into the future, not just right now,
Yeah. Do you feel like these paintings from the past have sort of stacked up in terms of not in terms of like value judgment, but like it's like you're dropping drops in a bucket to like fill it up to this point? Are you using things that you learned a painting ago on your newest painting and then so on and so forth?
Yeah, especially like with the earlier paintings when I didn't know what the hell I was doing, I would just pick up like the brightest colors and I'd be like, all right. And that palette I was using then has formed and stuck with me in some ways now because I still use very vibrant colors. Yeah. So I was able to kind of go into it and look into like how to make it work. I guess they always stuck with me.
Yeah. Did you have any other besides your father and then Lucky? I'd kind of consider Lucky this. Yeah. Did you have any other mentors along the way?
So after I got through to continue kind of the story. So painting, right after high school, trying to figure out how to oil paint. And then like in 2012, I came across a magazine called Juxtapo, right?
Yeah.
And I had never seen any art like that. Mind you, the only artist in my mind back then was like Alex Gray and like some of the visual painters. I didn't know too much about anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I forgot where I was, but I picked up the cover has David Cho on it, right?
Nice.
So I picked it up and I was just like, what do you mean? I was like, there's people now making art in their own way like this. Completely blew my mind, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I found High Fructose magazine shortly after that.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that like people were, and during that time period, I was also getting into hip hop. So
nice.
I kind of linked everything to graffiti because of what was a lot in those magazines. Revoke was in those magazines. A lot of other artists were in the magazines. So as I kind of like went into hip hop, I started meeting MCs and DJs and B-boys, right? Shout out to my homie Evolve. He's another mentor of mine. He's an MC, and he kind of introduced me to like, the hip hop world.
You said his name.
Then I started meeting
his name was Evolve. Okay, nice.
Evolve, yeah. And so he kind of introduced me to that, and then I got introduced to like graffiti people, writers.
Yeah.
I got hooked up with a crew, EOS crew, and which is majority of brothers, right? And I met up a lot of other writers as well locally. So this is 2013, maybe 2014. And through them, a lot of these guys are street dudes, strictly street dudes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to help me like lowlights, highlights, shadowing,
mm-hmm.
Blending of colors, color palette, use a teal, use a pink, use a teal, use a yellow,
mm-hmm.
What's your color palette for today? What cans do you need? And all that was really when it structured me into saying like, this is something that is real. Mm-hmm. It's not just a dream. I could make it happen. And I think there's this sort of like line I could try to follow, and so a lot of those guys were mentors to me, and they helped me out a lot,
Yeah. I think spray painting is, it's almost the polar opposite of oil painting in a lot of ways in terms of how it's like applied to the surface and just the whole culture around the two,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I do see like this connection where like, on the spray painting side, it's like opaque and flat, and you really learn how to kind of place color and value in the right spot.
Yeah.
And then like oil paint, you're blending a lot of times you're blending all those together to to like form a shape, right? But I can see how they could influence the two. It's like you have your gradient on the spray paint side.
Correct.
And then you have like, you really have to, like with spray paint, it seems like you really have to know where to put your values, but you can simplify it in this way that's like, we'll just put a swatch of like a darker orange here and then a lighter orange here. And
correct.
You start making the shape.
Yeah.
I don't know what question I really have out of that other than,
let me tell you this. That, I think that spray painting taught me how to oil paint because of everything you just said.
Okay.
So a friend of mine in the crew, Cirque, shout out to my homie Cirque, and he was just like, "Hey, dude, why don't you just oil paint like you spray paint?" And that was another moment of I was like, "Oh shit, maybe I should try to do that." And even till now, like if you look at my paintings, there's always like 3 or 4 of the same gradient, kind of not necessarily placed like you would with spray paint, but almost.
Yeah.
So I always keep that in mind, and that helped me simplify it enough to push it to paintbrush.
Nice. So I'm going to share the screen here real quick. I want to take a look at your paintings. I got your website pulled up. Can you see it?
Yeah, I see.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so I'm also noticing like the graffiti in all of them pretty much. Which I guess it's kind of like a shout out to your crew and the fact that you were involved in that, or probably still are involved in that world.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, sorry. We can't see each other's faces, so I gave you kind of the nod to go ahead. But so like I notice in a lot of these, there's like like kind of this thermal imaging, just like really cool lighting and colors.
Yeah.
Obviously that's on purpose. Is there,
Definitely.
is it just because it looks cool, or is there something else there?
So really quick, if you want to look at more of my recent work, you can go to my Instagram. I'm going to update this in the next, maybe, I think hopefully a month or two for
What is
my
it?
upcoming solo show.
It's Risk.
It's Raid,
Raid.
RAID
That's right.
_33. _33.
Nope. It brought up wasp stuff.
Yeah.
Wasp killer. Still brought it up. Oh, there you are.
So yeah, these are more of the recent paintings. But as far as like the colors, I think I've always wanted to do something kind of like the visuals in like a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
You know, something very Blade Runner, you know, I love all that, you know, even in Alien, even though there wasn't bright colors, there was still like a color palette.
Right.
So I really wanted to, even a movie that's not sci-fi, like, what is that? The Heat, you know, Heat with De Niro. And it's a very like noir, bit neo color palette. So that it stuck in my head. And I was like, I think I'm going to try to follow that, because you can tell a story also with color, not just the person's face.
Absolutely.
You know, so yeah, it stuck with me because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, here's a video of you just time-lapsing this painting. Now this is for Anthony Hurd's gallery, right?
Yeah.
Nice. I love that piece.
Thank you.
And I saw that you sold it, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm glad it's going to a good home.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so that material that she's kind of like, it looks like she's wearing, maybe, is that the I can't think of the name, but it's that kind of silver
it's kind of like a thermal blanket.
Thermal blanket, yes. Yeah.
So I'm kind of going towards now messing with materials and you know, putting them on people, and it makes things a little bit more difficult, but it makes things more interesting, you know, which I love.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you also mentioned that you kind of mentioned influences from movies and stuff too.
Yeah.
Do you have any other influences? Like, you're picking color palettes, maybe not based directly on a movie, but just having that sort of like aesthetic in mind, where you take a scene and you chop it up into palettes and like values.
Yeah.
Are you influenced by anything else outside of art, like movies, books, music, that kind of thing?
I think the big one, and I think you'll see this. So I think I'm influenced a lot by the psychedelic culture, psychedelic experiences. And I think that you can kind of see that in my work mixed with the graffiti. You can kind of see it.
Yeah. I
think that another big influence of mine, because like I said, I think it's all correlated. It's like, Terrence McKenna, his brother Dennis McKenna, you know, especially growing up, really showed me a lot of things. Whether McKenna was right at the time or not, it's just the fact that he would speak in these beautiful words, and his whole rap was incredible, right?
Oh yeah.
So Jeremy Narby, which is an anthropologist, you know, Alex Gray. So that the psychedelic culture really influenced, you know, me, and it still does, you know, all the time. I'm still reading books, you know, and still listening to talks with maps and, you know, all that, because I think it's very important.
Nice.
But yeah, that was a really big influence that I think people don't see right away. That's the psychedelic influence. It's a big thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people think about psychedelic art, they're like, oh, you mean like mandalas with bright colors and the flower of life and like and like things like that. And you're like, you know, you're at such a skill level with the rendering of your portraits. Even though you're using these like kind of like inverse color palettes and like just really interesting just range of colors there, I think like you're probably, you know, like people are like not overlooking it because like you're being looked at by the right people, but it just, I don't know what that is. It's weird because, yeah, like you were saying, everything's interconnected. And when we sort of like chop things up and categorize them, it it kind of funnels people into these little rivulets or
Yeah.
streams,
Yeah.
and it's like kind of like
Yes.
herding
Yes.
livestock or something, and they're, oh, psychedelic art.
Collectors.
Yeah. 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 It
Yeah.
it means this, or fine art means this. And yeah, I find your work psychedelic for sure. I mean, I look at it,
Awesome.
and that's part of the appeal for me, because you've blended that kind of psychedelic aesthetic with like just you can tell your skills are super refined and that you've worked at it for a long time.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So speaking of psychedelics, did you have a peak experience at some point? And do you use them as a tool to help with your paintings, or?
I had multiple experiences in my teenage years with mescaline. I found out about mescaline through the teachings of Don Juan.
Yeah.
And I live in South Texas, so
right.
The book was written around this area. And as soon as I found that out, I went to airwood.com in my high school, right? Because this was a while back, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, where does peyote come from? And I looked it up, and it's like, Rio Grande, right?
Yeah.
Which is like about an hour and a half away from the city I'm in.
Nice.
Which is McAllen. And so we took my friend's Tahoe, and I think we were 16, me and my other friend, my friend Abraham. Shout out to Abraham. We're still friends. And we rode out there, right? We didn't have driver's license. We just went. And I was like, it's here. Like, it has to be here. We're going to find it. And we were looking. Long story short, we ended up at this Native American dude's house who sold peyote like for his churches, right?
Yeah.
So I went over there and I started snooping around, and he came out with a gun and he was like, what do you want? In Spanish. And he was like, what do you want? What do you need? And he looked really, I wish I could have painted him. He had like, instead of like having all his jewelry on, it was all tattooed on him. So it was really cool.
Whoa, nice.
And he came out and I was like, hey, I speak Spanish. I was like, hey, I'm just looking for peyote. I'm looking for mezcalito. I heard about mezcalito. And he wasn't nicer, but he kind of understood what I wanted.
Yeah, yeah.
And he just gave us a sack full of peyote buttons. And from there, a couple of days later, I had a peak experience where it kind of like, it let me get in touch with like the passing of my father. It let me get in touch with like, life is not really what it seems like at all in almost every level.
Right.
Things are much deeper and much more complicated.
Yeah.
So just try to enjoy life now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had a few of those experiences throughout those years. And, they've always stayed with me, always stayed with me. Always been very important. That's my church, is what I tell my wife. I'm like, that was church for me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So wait, how old were you when you went out to this guy's house?
I was 16.
Wow.
I was 16.
Nice.
Yeah.
And wait, was that your first psychedelic experience from those buttons, or had you?
Yeah. Because by then we were just smoking a lot of pot, but I had never had something like that.
Dang. Yeah. I've actually never tried peyote itself. I've tried San Pedro a handful of times.
I've always wanted to try San Pedro.
Yeah. Speaking of Airwood, that's how I like learned to, chop it up and blend it and cook it down.
Same.
And it's.
You can find one of my early drawings on Airwood, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you still using any kind of psychedelics like at the easel, or is that too much?
No. I've never been able to be that guy. Sometimes I wish I could. Just because I have to. Everything that you see on the canvas is like extremely calculated for me.
Yeah.
I really have to like calculate everything that's going to happen. So I think that I wouldn't be able to enjoy the high or enjoy to use it. But I'm sure there's a way to figure that out. But as far as using psychedelics lately, not as much anymore. But just because I think I haven't let the opportunities arise.
Mm-hmm.
but the literature is still with me all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. I want to pivot back to your paintings, and let's talk about your process.
Sure.
I'm just curious as to how you go about this. To me, it looks like, are these people in your life that you know?
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it really potent in this way.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's because you know this person, you can kind of paint their face a little bit deeper than if it were just some face you found on the internet.
Correct. Yeah.
So are you taking photos of them, or are you having them sit for you, or how's that working?
So I'll it depends if they're close friends. We don't really have to schedule anything. It happens when it happens. But if they're friends, but they're not, the kind of distant friends, we'll schedule something. I'll have them come into my little studio, my little room, and I'll set up lighting, different color lights. And then with my iPhone, I'll just go ahead and take the photos, and I'll ask them for what I need, which I'm getting better at. I think the element in my painting that I need to develop more than anything is my photography and my shaping of the models, as far as like asking them what to give me. But I kind of get the photos from them. After the session's over, usually the way I work, I'll go for like a long run, a couple of miles, and every time when I take a break or something like that, I'll look at a photo, and then I'll run, and then I'll try to imagine what I can do with a photo. Sometimes the photo is so powerful in my eyes that it's already like I know exactly what to do.
It's dialed in.
But once I figure out what to do, I'll buy a panel, I'll sand it, prep it, do all that, and then I'll just start drawing with it's a blue transfer pencil that erases even with like a little bit of saliva. So you'll see none of that with paint over it, which I love.
Right.
So I'll go ahead and draw it out. And then from there, I don't really do any underpaintings. I never really taught myself that. So I do a technique, which I just learned what it's called. I think it's called window shading. And it's an older technique that really isn't used too much, where you render everything like a printer in a sense.
Gotcha.
So I
from
render
top
every
to bottom.
section from top to bottom, or from back to front. And everything's rendered all at once.
Nice.
So I think it's a little bit more stressful because sometimes I can't let things dry like a portrait, like a face. I'll try to knock out a face in one day. So that could be like a 12 to 13 hour day of just rendering just a face and leave. That way it doesn't look patchy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a simple, I think, process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. I've never, so like I'm not that good with oil. So when you're talking about this process of like rendering a face to the final form that you take it, I'm like, wait a second, wouldn't you have to let it dry to like do another layer or whatever?
Yeah, it's all one layer.
Yeah.
Everything is one layer.
So it's,
except for like the layer of hair. When it comes to hair, I'll do like 2 layers.
Yeah.
The underpainting and then the actual strands of hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I guess technically it's like alla prima also, or maybe not just one.
I guess so.
Yeah. Like, nice. Let's see. So yeah, do you feel like the running helps you kind of, I don't know how to say it. Would it help you like generate ideas or lock in to ideas or maybe learn?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's all kind of a flow like that?
It's all a flow. I think it's part of the thing. It's completely necessary. Like I paint full time. So when I'm painting them, you sit down, man, for like 4 or 5, 6, 7 hours, more 10, 12 hours. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like every day I try to go running for maybe like an hour and a half, sometimes in between paint sessions, so I could give myself a break. But as far as like the idea making, for me, I'm assuming that the endorphins and the running and the music, or sometimes the book or the podcast just really solidifies the idea. And this is something I tell people, and as far as artists, that I feel like the running helps me stay in a creative idea mode all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
like I don't shut it off, and I'm sure like a lot of painters never shut it off either,
Yeah.
or artists, like they don't shut it off. You're always in that mode of like in a creative mode where like you can open yourself up and pull an idea and you can look at it and mess with it and then maybe put it back in storage for later. And running does that for me. So usually I have 3 or 4 paintings coming behind the one I'm essentially working on, and running really helps me visualize all that and store it. I don't even know if that makes sense, but running is very essential for me.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like, there's plenty of research on exercise and like cardio and this concept of like neurogenesis, where like exercise and cardio basically generate more neurons in your brain and make more connections between them. And,
oh wow.
And yeah. I mean, I just think that's perfect. It aligns perfectly.
Yeah, I think
with
running's very psychedelic. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're like it's like breath work or something. It's like some weird sort of breath work thing. So you're running for an hour and a half. That's so long, man.
Yeah.
I cannot do that.
It's just necessary.
I run for like 10 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, that's good.
It takes a while though. It took me a few years to be able to build it up. Yeah.
Does that get hard on your knees? I know we're way out of the art zone right now.
Yes, it does. It does. That my time compared to last year's has slowed down by like a minute and a half in general. Mm-hmm. And but it's like consciously trying to slow down my knees. And make sure like I don't slip or anything like that.
Nice.
I'm 33, so I'm not old, I'm not young, but I just want to be careful.
Yeah. I mean, I just turned 36, and I swear there's like every 3 years I feel like a difference. You know what I mean? Like, and like my physical abilities, and I'll go on a hike and I'll be like, man, that was a big day. Come home, and just like I need to lay down for a second. What is your biggest fear as it relates to being an artist?
Being normal.
Nice.
Painting, and there's nothing wrong with this, right? Nothing at all. But I think my fear in general with life is being normal. But when it comes to being as an artist, is to be stuck painting landscapes or beaches or skies or something mundane. Just something, or just like maybe I don't know, doing something with my art that I don't want to do. Because I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
I painted murals to make money for the last 2 years for businesses. I don't do it anymore because I'm done with that. But I hated it. And I was like, I'm living my worst fear. I'm not going to be this guy, you know? So I just got out as soon as possible.
Yeah. So do you take commissions then? Or?
Yeah, I take commissions, and, I sell prints. A lot of my prints, a lot of my supporters were local when it comes to prints. Nice. And I'm moving into like redoing my website and starting my shop up and doing stuff like that. But commissions and the paintings have been selling well enough to where like I'm okay. My wife also like, it's kind of our dream, for this. She went to school and we both love the same artists, and we've gotten to meet artists that we love and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
She's told me, she's like, you know what, I'll take care of things. I'll help you out. She's like, just work. And it's funny because my wife went to school, got her fine arts degree, but she's a real estate agent now, and she loves that more, and she's like, art school's not for me. She's like, forget all that. But without her, I couldn't be doing what I love. And so it's just a balancing act, you know what I mean, of trying to keep everything together. But I'd rather do this than going back to working a full-time job as a manager at a retail place like I used to,
Absolutely.
No way. Yeah.
Yeah. That's grinding to the soul.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so crucial to have someone in your corner like that.
100%.
I think a lot of artists, I know this is how it went for me, but like a lot of artists start out being like, I'm gonna be an artist, I'm gonna make it, and then like 4 or 5 years into it, you're like, oh, I'm a business.
That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
In this past year,
and like if you don't have either the interest, the time, or like someone helping you out, it's easy to fall in to the trap of of like pretending that you're not a business, or like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And yeah, I just, it's always nice to highlight that for anyone listening. It's like,
definitely.
it's good to,
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, I think that like the work is the primary, priority, I guess. But you also have to have some kind of business savvy and planning, things like this.
100%. No,
And
you said it right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I'm basically saying this from a point of view of like, don't do what I did, you know, don't just kind of be like, I'm painting something and hopefully it'll sell,
Yeah.
you can do what you want, everybody out there, live your life.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Do what you want. Do what you want. Yeah.
um,
No, but I agree. I think there's certain paths for everybody.
mm-hmm,
Right.
mm-hmm,
And and I would say like the path that we're on, you do have to look at it as business.
right.
You do have to, and I think a lot of my friends, or a few of my friends locally that did go to art school, they tell me that they didn't learn anything about business, being a businessman, as a business person,
That's
as
so
an artist,
insane.
and which is bananas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they asked me for advice, and I'm like, look, try this, try that. Look for your collector base, or find out which gallery works for you, because not every gallery is the same for every artist, and this and that. Make sure you sell prints, editions, and all that. And that's because I'm learning, little by little. I feel like I'm still a baby when it comes to the art game itself.
Same.
And it's just that's a big part. You said it right. It's a big part. The business aspect is a big part.
So how are you getting your work out there? What's your kind of MO? Have you hit up galleries, or did they just find you, or are you going to art fairs?
So I guess the story behind that is that, in 2019, in the middle of 2019, I lost my job. The company that I work with, was not doing well. So I lost my job. I couldn't find a job during that time period here. So my wife and I were like, just go full time, right? I'll start painting full time. And, that's when I started kind of focusing my skills on what I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
So about a year later, almost a year later, during that time period, I started applying to different galleries. Little galleries just to get into a group show, and a group show here and a group show there, not big galleries. And I noticed that the galleries would give me good reviews, and, I didn't have problems getting into the gallery. So my wife was like, okay, so go after the big ones, and I'm like, no way, there's no way, like, nope. So what she did is that she grabbed all my work and sent it to High Fructose to apply to, like, what would you like? I had something like editor's pick or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And they picked me, which is completely mind blowing. They gave me like a little spot on their social media and their website, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So then I got a little bit more courage during that time period. So I applied to the Luz de Jesus group show, and then I applied to Arc Enemies group show. And I got in to both of them, which in March of 2020, right before the pandemic hit. So I decided to go to the Luz de Jesus show, and I flew out to LA. And it was a great experience. I got to meet the director of the gallery. I got to meet other artists, and it was a great experience. And, I didn't know what I was going to do after that. But I had ideas. Like, my dream goal was always to show with Thinkspace and to show with galleries like that. So when I was there for the Luz de Jesus show, the day after the opening, I got a Instagram thing that said Thinkspace Gallery started following you, whatever. So I was like, dude, that's awesome. That's great. But it was just like, it's awesome. That's great. So I came back home from the trip to LA, and maybe like a month later, 2 months later, Thinkspace had this whole thing called the Happy Place contest. And it was like a contest for artists that were unknown during the pandemic to like highlight their stuff or whatever.
Right. So
again, I was just like, that's stupid. I'm not going to do it. No way. And I think I entered it maybe like 15 minutes before it closed. So it was like midnight in Texas or something like that.
Yeah.
So I applied for it. And then yesterday, the day after, I was having a couple of beers with some friends. And I just got the notifications, and it kind of, Thinkspace changed my life. right?
Yeah.
At that moment of just posting, like, he's going to work with us. So instead of giving me like a shout out and like a little like show of like 4 or 5 pieces, they decided to give me a solo show in their small room. And they teamed me up with Super A and kind of directed me on how to do things from there. And they changed my life, man. They changed my life in every way in the art world possible.
Yeah.
So after working with them, I just started working with different bigger galleries and you know, just it's kind of going from there.
Nice. Did that experience kind of open your eyes up to what the art world is?
Yeah. I felt like I didn't know shit. You know, I was like, what is this? You know, and I still feel like I don't know much, but
right.
I know more than I did back then, a year and a half ago. But it showed me how big the art world is,
right?
You know, and how powerful it is and everything like that. You know, it's not just how good you are at your work,
right?
It's everything else as well, you know?
Yeah. I feel like I've had a couple of those like eye-opening experiences. Like one was Art Basel, going down to Art Basel and just seeing what that is and the amazing just beast that is, you know, like that was really impressive. So like, speaking of the art world, what is kind of like a brutal fact that you've learned about the world of art without, you know, taking any shots at anyone?
I really haven't really had bad experiences, but I will say this. Collectors are great, but to the artists listening out there, even if they buy a lot of your work and they're patrons and you have a good relationship, don't let them tell you what to do.
100%.
And another thing is, if you see that a gallery wants to back you and you see that they're good people, you know, stay with them, learn from them, you know, really try to grow with them.
Yeah.
And then another thing I've learned is that the art world is so big that sometimes no matter how good you are technically, you know, you have to learn everything else that comes with it. And that was a big thing for me because I was like, I'm going to be so good. And my mindset's still like that. I want to be so good that they can't turn me away.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, you need to learn everything else, you know, like the business aspect of it, who to talk to, who not to talk to, when to sell, when not to sell, who to sell to, you know, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. There's so many ins and outs, and it can feel like a chess game sometimes. Yeah.
100. Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
It definitely is a chess game. Yeah.
Nice. It's so, like, without any kind of like false modesty, I want like a really honest answer here. What painter or artist would you like to be compared to?
Oh man, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I don't know if I have like a great answer to that, but who I want to be compared to now? Like with what I do now, or who would I want to be like in the future?
Either one. I mean, I think like maybe, I don't know, I don't want to get into the like territory of like legacy, because I think that's, you know, kind of a ghost that can be detrimental to chase or whatever. But like, if that wasn't a factor, you know, if someone came upon your work that you respected in the art world and said, "Oh, you look like this," and you were like, "Whoa, ultimate compliment, thank you," or "You remind me of this painter," from any age, alive or dead, like who would you want, or who do you think that it kind of?
I feel like, I mean, damn, that's hard. Somebody that I do admire a lot. And I think that I would love for anybody to be like, "Hey, do you know this guy, or have you shown with this guy before?" Or, "Oh, you're showing with this guy, congratulations," would be Willie Wallace.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I think that his ideas and his technicality is incredible. His color palettes, everything he does is incredible. And I feel like if anybody would ever, even though we don't paint the same, but I look up to him as a painter, as an artist, his discipline and where he's going, his trajectory and all that. So there's a lot of them, but that's one of them that comes to mind. Nice.
So yeah, I wanted to get back to your work. I'm going to share the screen again. Usually I just do one screen. This is going to be hard to say. Screen share session. There we go.
That's all good.
But I wanted to ask you kind of, you mentioned the hero's journey earlier. Are there any kind of allegorical or like psychological narrative things going on in your paintings? Like what is how are you framing these in terms of a story, if at all, if they're being framed as a story at all?
I think there is a loose story, starting with the show at Thinkspace that I had last year, and it's very apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
The first show that I had was called Sunsets in the Apocalypse, and that was kind of like people maybe at the midst of this event that was changing who they are as people and changing society. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like the big kind of story arc, and the next show will be revolved around that. But the story with the individual is that each individual is having a moment, whether it be of anxiety, whether it be of sadness or shock, terror, silliness, but they're having a moment in that world where the world is falling apart, and they're in that world having those moments, that 1 second of that feeling, and I deal a lot with anxiety in my personal life. And I feel that you can see that in the people's eye, in their eyes and how they pose. So I think that's kind of like a lot of the symbolism in it, the symbolism, also life is hard, it's hard to live, life is suffering kind of thing. And I try to contrast that with the bright colors. It's like it's a darkness and a sadness in these paintings, but there's the brightness that kind of contrasts it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a comic tragedy or a tragic comedy, however you want to look at it. Yeah. Super cool stuff, man. I really dig it.
Thank you.
So we can wrap up here. Is there? Let me get back to Zoom. I guess I am on Zoom. Yeah. Hey, look, I know how to use technology. Do you have any? What are your kind of like dreams for the future, or goals or plans from here on out?
I think I would like to keep making a living with what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I have no ideals of grandeur when it comes to like legacy and like, make $1 million or $500,000. I really, what I would want is just to have longevity, to be able to do this till the day I die.
Yeah.
Make good money. What everybody's idea of good money is different, but make good money out of it and keep showing with my heroes, keep meeting them, keep getting better at what I do. And to be able to really be able to bring to life what I see in my head, to really be able to I guess like get good enough to where I can tell the stories that I want to tell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's it. Just keep working. I just want to keep working. That's it.
That's inspiring. That's inspiring, man. I guess we will stop there because that's just like the perfect note.
All right.
I really appreciate your time, Manuel. And
no, I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, your work is dope. Everybody go check him out at raid_33 on Instagram and Manuel Zamudio Studio.
Yeah, there you go. And I will be having my next solo show with Thinkspace February of 2022. So check that out.
Oh, dope. Nice. I've been meaning to come out to LA for a while. I haven't been out there since like 2018 or something. So maybe I'll drop in. I thought I was going to go to Jack's show too, but I didn't end up making it happen. COVID.
Well, hopefully we can meet up out there or something.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to meet in person. Well, thank you again, man. And thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Thank you again for listening to another episode of Artsy AF Podcast. If you are interested in supporting the Patreon, that address is patreon.com/RTAF Podcast. And I want to thank all my patrons. You guys keep this engine running. I couldn't do it without you. Go over there and check out the tiers I have available. It includes video, guest suggestions, patron-only posts, and some merchandise. Thank you again for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe. Do all those little things that help get Artsy AF into the consciousness of more and more people. Yeah.